Okay. All right. Well, what I'm going to do here. Oh, there's a chat. Let me just take a look at that real quick. Hello, everybody from Todd. Nice to see you, Todd. So what I'm going to do, just so you guys know, I'm used to doing stuff on stage when I'm doing presentations and live, and I don't do a lot of PowerPoint. It's really not my thing, but I thought it might be easy just to sort of follow along with it real quick and just sort of go through to make sure I'm hitting some high points. And then at the end, what we'll do is I'll stay for as long as you guys want to answer questions. Okay. I have nowhere else to go tonight. I'm all yours. So we'll make sure that we do that. And one of the things I won't be doing is paying attention to the chat till the end. So if you guys want to chat back and forth, you can, but if you have a question for me, I'm not going to be reading it because I'm one of those people who'll be like, oh, shiny thing, where was I?
Stay focused. Yeah.
And then we've lost me for the whole night. Okay. All right, then. So let me get started here. I haven't said hi to everybody, but hi, everybody. If I haven't said your name out loud, I do apologize. But hello. Oh, Heath is waving away at me. So hi, Heath. All right. Okay. So what I'm going to do is share my screen and just get to it. I will have to shrink you guys down here so that I can actually, let me make sure I've recorded because last time I did. Yes. Okay. Last time I forgot to record and I thought, oh no, I felt so bad. Okay. So when I share screen, I'm going to be closing you guys up so that I can see my PowerPoint, okay? And let me move this thing over so I can actually change my slides. Alrighty, so the FFSHing Formula, I called my company, or my program, my system is the FFSHing Formula. It stands for Foundations for Success Hybrid Formula. The hybrid is that I teach people how to pay off debt. I paid off 39 rentals in 11 years. I figured out a way to use the bank's money to be able to help us pay off debt. In fact, I can show you how to use the bank's money at 0% interest to pay off your debt. So that's one thing. The other part is how to be in control of your income and the profits that you make in real estate, because quite often people get into real estate investing and they don't have any control as to the results and the profits or income that's going to come from those properties. So we're going to cover all of that tonight. It is created for Canadians and it was originally created to save my butt. Okay, so we'll get into what happened and why I had to create it in the first place. But basically who this is for is anybody who wants to change and improve their current financial picture. If you're sick and tired of living substandard life or dealing with debt, paycheck to paycheck, that kind of thing, or if you're worried about getting sick or losing your job, I know what that's like. I've had cancer before, and I was diagnosed actually with terminal cancer. I had 6 months to a year to live 10 years ago. So I know what it's like to feel the relief knowing that money's coming in, whether you get out of bed or not, because money was not a problem for me when this happened. So it's also for anyone who needs to replace their current income starting in just a couple of months, not years. So not like rentals, it's like right away. And it's not for anybody who's closed-minded to the fact that they think that they know all there is to know about debt and paying off debt and or real estate investing. You need to be open-minded and teachable to learn something new, and you need to be willing to take action to pursue a better life. You can't just be taking courses and courses and courses and doing nothing with them. So this is for new or seasoned real estate investors, whether you've ever bought a property or not, or you've got an existing portfolio that maybe you want to see if you can get it performing better. It's also for people that are resistant to borrowing money or credit, like risking their credit, and or joint venture partners. If you don't want to have to be giving 50% of your deal away to somebody else, this is definitely for you. It's also for those who don't like having to negotiate way below market price to get, what that cliche thing of buying money or getting money when you sell, or what am I saying? Making money when you buy. In my opinion, that's stealing somebody else's equity. If you buy a property, even $20,000 under the purchase, like the true market value, that person has taken years to pay off $20,000. And in a swipe of a pen, we're literally taking their money. The way I do real estate investing, we buy at fair market value. We never have to take somebody's equity. That belongs to them. There's still plenty of room to make money in this business without risking or taking advantage of anybody ever. And if you're tired of costly renovation projects where you can't know what your profits will be at the end, you don't have to do that. And if you're tired of covering negative cash flowing properties on your rentals where you're having to work extra just to cover the loss or the downfall, or you have to use profits from one property to cover negatives on another, you don't have to do that either. Okay, the FFSHing Formula is for those who are done with all those risky strategies and just want something that's actually reliable and predictable, almost boring. Okay. So we're going to also be shedding a light on most of the common strategies that are out there that actually do risk you, your money, and your credit. And we're going to talk about, what you need to know to avoid risking the very thing that you try to create. So many people build an incredible, beautiful portfolio, and one thing goes wrong. And because they've been risking their own their own money and their credit, if something goes wrong, it goes wrong across the board. It's a domino effect. It ruins your portfolio and your personal net worth, which is not acceptable. So where we need to start with all this is really your mindset and your BS. And sometimes we have BS is standing for belief system. And sometimes we have a good BS belief system. And sometimes we have a BS belief system. And the very foundation and core source of your reality and what you believe and how strong you believe it determines the quality of life that you have and the person that you become. When you learn to control your mindset and what you believe and how you believe it, you get the opportunity to design and control and acquire the outcomes that you desire now and in the future. So we're talking about two different types of real estate investing, and we'll get into that in a minute here. To do this, though, we need to weed out, dispel any damaging convictions and belief systems around debt and real estate investing, especially those that are not founded on truth and facts. There's a lot of misunderstanding about money and investing out there. So I'm going to clarify a lot of it tonight, and I'm going to take all the skeletons out of the closet and get them to hang out in the living room so you can see them all and ask them questions, okay? Alrighty, so starting from the false foundation is a direct reflection and consequence of the belief that you hold, okay? Whatever you believe is what you actually have in your life. Your life is literally a reflection of what you're believing, whether it's true or false, okay? But when you get this right, you're going to be able to set yourself from guilt around sleepless nights and stress. And a lot of people have that around a lot of people in their lives, events in their lives and circumstances. A lot of us feel guilty about events and circumstances that have taken place. And we live with this guilt all the time. Sometimes it has to do with the events that have happened to you as you grow up. They form you who you are. We all have life-defining moments that, sometimes good or bad, and they can define the kind of person that you are. And sometimes that can cause an extreme amount of guilt or stress or anything throughout your life. And we need to sort of learn how to change our mindset around certain things and put evidence and proof around that so that we can no longer own things that don't belong to us to own, but we can also get to the truth of what we actually believe about something and why we believe it, and is it founded on something that is true and factual? Because if it's not, we need to change our belief system around it. And tonight we're going to be talking around the idea of debt and around the idea of real estate investing when it comes to your mindset and your belief system around it, okay? Alrighty, so taking care of today's needs first is what we need to focus on. And what I mean by that is most real estate strategies do not take care of today's needs first. And that being getting rid of debt and creating and being in control of your income and profits through real estate investing, okay? Most of real estate investing programs, and I'm gonna show you this, I'm gonna prove out what I'm talking about, or you can take notes and grill me on it afterwards. I will prove everything that I say, okay? If I don't prove it, take a note and make sure you put me on the hot seat about it afterwards. But we literally need to be focusing on what actually works, because every single strategy out there that I can think of actually risks your money and your credit doing it. That does not take care of today's needs first. It puts you at risk. You need a strong foundation to build from first, okay? I've been in this business for 27 years. It'll be 28 years in April. So I've got loads and loads of experience when it comes to real estate investing. I have seen it, almost everything. I have done everything from single family and multifamily rentals. I've built single family and multifamily as well. I've done condo conversions in buildings. I've done land acquisition, subdivisions. I've done, what else have I done? Oh, I've bought mountain ranges. I bought 2 mountain ranges out in BC. And I've done all of those, close to 1,000 deals now, without using any of my own money and without having to qualify for a single mortgage. Now, the thing is, though, I didn't start out that way. I started out buying 34 rentals my first year and doing 14 flips. And then I renovated and flipped 72 properties in my second year just to be able to hang on to my rentals that I bought the first year, because I learned about a little thing about negative cash flow. I ended up with 12 vacancies all at once, plus my own home. Scared the shit out of me, by the way. Okay, so this is when I learned about the most common mistake in real estate investing, which is starting by building a rental portfolio. We're going to go through that in a little bit here, but rentals do not take care of today's needs first. In fact, when you get rental property, you're typically buying debt. All right. And if you do it wrong, you're going to get buried under it. So I did buy into that belief system. Rentals, like I said, do not take care of today's needs first of getting rid of debt and creating dependable income and profits. It's a future thing. And I'll prove that out in a little bit here. Okay. So the first thing we need to be thinking about though, is if you have debt, transforming that debt into wealth. And if you can use the bank's money at 0% interest, why the heck not, right? So this is where we need to get started here first. So I'm going to show you a little bit of information about what it takes to actually building wealth. There is an art to it. And there is one caveat though. You do need to remove the emotional ties that you have regarding money. Banks know that you get emotional about your money and they use this to manipulate and control you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reveal a few things about banks and debt and what they do to sort of keep you in debt. So what you think you know about mortgages and debt is probably flawed. Banking, mortgages, loans, lines of credit is, most of what you learn about banking, mortgages and lines and loans of credit are coming from schools and banks. All right. So they're going to have a biased way of wanting to tell you what you should believe in. There's a narrative that they're going to teach you so that you will buy and use the products that they want you to use. Right. So the problem is it's a BS system that is built on lies and deception. And I'm going to prove that out as well. But the sad thing is it gets passed on down from generation to generation. And even in real estate investing, not only the way we use our money, but real estate investing as well, we pass these strategies down from generation to generation. And a lot of them no longer work anymore. And some of them are just flat out lies. Okay. And this does perpetuate a debt slavery that we're all living under, but we don't have to be. Okay. Banks sell and promote products that are not in our best interest. And here's how they get us to comply. We're taught and encouraged to finance almost everything that we buy. So we get student loans, car loans, mortgages, savings accounts. We even invest in register rip-off sucker programs. For those of you who didn't see that, that was an RRSP, right? But here's the thing. If all those things actually worked, why is it that Stats Canada is reporting that in the last 10 years, the rate at which people are going to have to work until the day they die has increased by 63%. If what they were saying worked, we wouldn't be having this problem. So we need to look at the lies. We need to take a closer look. Loans are the most expensive way to be paying back debt. They are what's called a one-way lending instrument. So this means that as you put money towards a mortgage, you cannot borrow that money back easily. You can't just use it again. Unlike a credit card, for example, as an example, or a line of credit, if you paid that money down, you have access to it again. But with a mortgage, you don't, unless you borrow it out and you have to pre-qualify or re-qualify to be able to get that money out. But it's your money and you shouldn't have to do that. And it makes it hard for you to use that. But the reason that they do that, the reason that your mortgage payments are a one-way lending instrument is because the banks want to use that money. They don't want you to be able to take it out unless they're going to get an interest rate return on that. Because what they do is the money that's on their books, they can borrow it and leverage it 10 times. And then they can take it and invest it. And then they make a return off of your money. So they're making more money off your money than you are. All right. So this is important to understand. The other thing is, here's something that you all need to know. I'm just going to give you sort of a freebie here, is biweekly payments. These are a scam. And let me show you why. A lot of people, tons and tons and tons of people, we're talking hundreds of thousands of people, even millions of people do biweekly payments on their mortgages, but it's a scam. It's not in your best interest. And so let me show you why here. There are 52 weeks in a year, right? So 52 divided by 2 is 26. But if you were looking at it, a lot of people think, oh, well, biweekly payments means I'm paying twice a month, but it doesn't. It means because if you're paying twice a month, it will be 24 payments, right? 2 times 12. So what they're doing is they're actually getting an extra full month's worth of payments out of you every single year, right? So what you're doing is you actually aren't saving any money, although they do say, oh, you'll shorten the term of your mortgage. And yes, you shorten it by about 3.78%. But the problem is the only reason you've been able to shave time off the back end of your mortgage is because you've just paid more every single year on the front end. You haven't saved any money at all. You're still paying the same amount of interest on your mortgage, but there is a better way where you don't have to actually pay the interest We can knock thousands, tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars interest off of a mortgage if you know how to do it properly. And this is opposite of what the banks want you to do. Okay, this is totally a scam what they're doing to us, but we can use their own strategies against them. We can put that into our best interest because what they're teaching us is not in our best interest. It does not help us. All right, so there is a huge deception. By understanding a little bit about the wording around things, it's really important. But here's a big one for you. Most of you probably have a savings and a checking account, right? When you put your money into something, think about this. If you put your money into a savings account, the bank might be giving you, I don't know, if you're lucky, 2%. If some banks don't even give you anything, but if you even got 2%, that's less than inflation, right? But the reason that they encourage, again, the savings account is because you're putting your money in there so that they can leverage it and use it themselves. If you're getting 2% in the savings account, this is one small little tip for you, okay? Instead of putting your money in the savings account where you're getting 2%, what if you put it against your mortgage or something else that was a two-way lending instrument that was costing you money, and you were able to bring that money down and save yourself the interest on that money? That's now a profit to you that you don't have to pay tax on, and that money is still available to you if you set it up properly. It doesn't go anywhere. It's just like putting it in a savings account. It's still there available to you. But instead, you're actually making way more money and you're making it tax-free. And I'll go into that in a little bit more detail here. So if you're leaving your money in a savings account or checking account, you're letting the bank build wealth off your money. You need to be learning how to use the bank's money to build wealth off that, especially when you can get it at 0%. Okay? By educating yourself, you're going to be able to get your money working better for you instead of you always having to work for it. And again, the banks are leveraging your money. This is the key to your debt freedom, is understanding that you don't want to be putting your money where the bank's leveraging it, because if they're leveraging it, that means you're not. All right? Okay, so interest on loans is amortized. This is something that we need to clearly understand. The word amortize is very key. Mort means to die or be dead, and the prefix a means not or not to or never. So an amortized, the word amortized means to never die or never be dead. Think about that, okay? So loans and mortgages are actually not meant to end. In fact, they even give us little, subliminal messages that you're richer than you think. And, you've got this equity, you can borrow it, you can send the kids to school, you can renovate your house, you can take a vacation. They're constantly trying to find ways to keep us in debt. But there's another way to do that, to remove the debt so that you're dealing with cash all the time. If you want to buy something, you have the money available to you, but you don't have to use that for real estate. We'll get into that in a minute here. The other side of the equation of a mortgage or like amortized debt or an amortized mortgage is the word mortgage, right? Some people already know this, but I'm going to share it with you in case you don't. The word mort means death, right? And gage means pledge. So a mortgage means that you're buying a death pledge, right? A mortgage, every time you sign a mortgage that is an amortized mortgage, you have to sign a never die death pledge. Let that sink in for a minute. That's insane. When you hear those words like that you're signing a never die death pledge, it'll make you think twice about borrowing a mortgage or any other debt afterwards. On the other hand, though, amortized interest is bad, right? Simple interest is something that's completely different. It's calculated daily and paid off monthly. And even better yet, you can borrow this money for free. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But when we can identify the BS around what we're being taught, and we can start standing on truth and what actually does work for us, we can change our net worth, and our debt can go away really fast. When you implement new belief systems around money, you're able to set yourself free from the lies that they keep telling you. And you'll see them right away too, right? The other thing is being debt free is one part of the FFSHing formula. Having cash flow is the other part of it, because it's really, really huge that you need to be in control of the amount of money that's coming in. Because if something ever happens to you, what are you going to do, right? If you get sick or you lose your job or you want to retire or travel, whatever that is for you, you need to have cash flow and you need to be in control of how much. Before we dive into this, though, we need to expose some of the dangers that are out there, especially when it comes to real estate investing, because knowing the risks helps to avoid those pitfalls, right? So the most common real estate investing strategies and their associated risks are what we're going to cover here. But before we get into that too much, what I need you to understand is that most people, when they get into this business, they don't have a realistic business plan. In fact, this is probably where people make the biggest mistake, is that they don't start with knowing what the end looks like. You need to know exactly what you're trying to accomplish, whether that's an end goal, an ongoing goal, or an upfront goal, or a combination of all of those. You need to know what that is in order to know what strategy will get you that. I see people dive into real estate investing all the time without a clue with what strategy is going to get them the outcome that they want. They kind of go from deal to deal to deal, and it's like a brand new business all over again. Each property that they come to is like a new strategy all over. I got to reevaluate this one. I got to figure out what I'm doing with that one. And that's no way to build a solid, successful real estate business if you're just flying by the seat of your pants, because essentially that's what that is. So a lot of seminars are designed to sell you on a pipe dream that their systems will never deliver. Most focus on one of the following. So let's look at this. There's flipping. We're going to go into detail of each one. We're going to talk about the pros and cons of these. So there's flipping, there's BRRRRs, there's rentals, there's rent to owns, and there's wholesaling. And all of these schemes, all of these strategies carry massive risks to your money and credit, whether you know it or not. I'm going to expose it to you. All right. None of them take care of today's needs first. None of them. All right. So let's take a look at this here. So we need to have a plan of action to start with, right? Without a clear vision, it's going to be impossible to know where to start or what your needs and goals need to be. So you can't know what strategy to use if you don't know what you need. Okay. You need to think about, do you have debts or a mortgage that you need to get paid off? Do you need immediate relief? Do you want to fire your boss and work for yourself? And how fast do you want that? Are you looking to increase your income and have more money coming in every month? Do you want to improve your lifestyle? Are you tired of somebody else's rules? Once you know what your goals are, then you can actually pick the strategy that you want to use. We're not presented with the whole picture most of the time. The techniques that we're taught most of the time don't always work out the way we need them to, and they don't always give us the end goal that we're looking for, because we don't understand what we're looking at. Okay, most strategies will actually risk your money and your credit, and in many cases, and we're going to get into this because this is my biggest pet peeve right here, especially right now because it's so rampant in this industry, especially across Canada. A lot of coaches are teaching you to do something that actually crosses a legal line. Okay, I have a nickname. It's called the Terminator Real Estate Guru Bullshit. And I have that name for a reason. It's because I call out people on all the bullshit that they teach to people that is not true. All right. You need to know what the right strategy is to be able to meet your goals, both today and in the future. You need to be taking care of today's needs first with whatever strategy you use. And you need to be at the same time be able to build a retirement nest egg. So it needs to do both, right? Okay, so let's first look at the old way. This is what I call rentals, okay? Rentals do not take care of today's needs first, and they can cost you dearly in the beginning. And here's one of these guru cliches again of cash flow is king. But I'll tell you right now, cash flow is not king. That is an absolute BS belief system. And here's the thing, and here's why I say that. Cash flow is only good if you have no mortgage on your property. That's where it's really in place. But until you've paid off that mortgage, it's not doing a whole lot for you. But even over and above the mortgage, look at it this way. If you buy a $500,000 house and it's an investment property, you're putting 20% down. That's $100,000, right? 20% of 500, that's 100 grand. So $100,000, think of it this way. Even if you're cash flowing $500 a month, which woohoo, $500 a month, that sounds awesome, right? Cash flow is king. But let me ask you, is cash flow king or is return on investment king? If you buy a property, you put $100,000 into it and you're cash flowing $500 a month, it's going to take you 16.67 years just to break even with the money that you put down. And if you borrowed that money and you have to pay an interest rate on it, it's going to take you longer. Okay, so cash flow is not king. Return on investment is king. And that's important to understand because it's no different than putting $100,000 in the bank and then taking $500 out every single month and say, I'm making $500 a month. You're not making $500 a month. You're just drawing $500 out of your original money. Okay, that's what you have to think about. Most properties do not cash flow in the beginning either. So it can actually be worse. And this is without even closing costs, holding costs, vacancies, repairs, new appliances, nothing. So real estate is really understand with rentals, they do not take care of today's needs first. When you get a rental property, you're buying debt. I can't tell you the number of times I've talked to real estate investors and coaches and stuff like this, and they talk about all the doors that they have in all these apartment buildings. But then when I ask them, well, how much equity do you have in all those doors? Their face goes white because they've used their own money to put into those properties, or they've borrowed somebody else's money and credit to be able to do it. And they may be cash flowing, but that money is going to paying off the money that they've had to borrow to be able to buy those properties. They own nothing except a job. It's really important to understand that, to not get sidetracked and get all these starry-eyed, like, oh my gosh, they're doing amazing kind of a scenario. You really need to be asking the right questions and to find out whether or not the person that's teaching you about real estate investing actually owns those things, or whether they actually have all debt on that and they owe partners and joint venture partners and hard money lenders and all, or even their own money, their own savings, or they've been leveraging from one property to buy the next one and leveraging it out and buying the next one. So many people, most real estate investors that I talk to are so heavily in debt that if anything goes wrong, everything will be gone. Okay, so the next one that I wanted to cover, I'll give you a quick little case study. This was Gordon. So Gordon came to me and he had 9 rental properties that were negative $3,000 a month. He was actually working 2 full-time jobs to be able to cover the negative cash flow on those rentals, because he bought into a system or an idea. He belonged to a real estate investment network group. I actually used to belong to it myself years ago. And the main focus in that group was to buy as many rentals as you can. And in 10 years, you'll look like a genius. Do whatever you can to hang on to them. In 10 years, you'll look like a genius. And so many people were buying into this. Even I did at first. That's why I bought those 34 rentals the first year. But Gordon bought into it and he used all of his life savings to buy these. Unlike me, I didn't use any money because I didn't have any, and I didn't qualify for any mortgages because I didn't actually know that that's how people bought property, because no one in my family had ever owned a property. So I just figured out something different right from the beginning. But anyways, Gordon was negative $3,000 a month. And I showed him how he could use my system to change the current properties that he had, change the use of what he was doing with the same people living in it, and turn them around. And 2.5 months later, he showed up at one of my group meetings. When I used to do it live in Calgary, I used to rent out a dinner theater. And he shows up, he gets to the mic, and he says, I just want to share with everybody here, I've decided to be, to join Candy's coaching because of the fact that she showed me how to turn my properties from a negative 3,000 in 2.5 months to a positive $3,200 a month. That's a $6,200 a month raise. And he was able to quit his job, his second job. And he didn't lose all his money. He didn't lose his life savings. He didn't ruin his credit, and his wife didn't leave him because he was behind on all these properties and was about to lose everything. That was what his fear was at the time. So traditional way. The traditional is what I call flips. This is really the dirty, seedy underbelly side of the business. Most of the people that get into this is, we get these starry-eyed ideas that I want to flip a bunch of properties because I've seen it on TV shows and it makes it look all exciting and everything, whether, the drama is real or fake. There's so much drama. And the reason I say real or fake is because I actually used to have a reality TV show on global television. And I would not go on HDTV, and I turned them down, and I also turned down the Women's Network because they wanted it to be fake drama. They wanted to make up the stories and make it look real, but that's the reality of most of the reality TV shows, is it's not real, it's fake. And you don't want drama when you're doing real estate investing. You want to know that you're going to make a profit before you buy the property. And I mean, before you even buy the property. That's so important, because a flip that actually makes money is really hard to find. A lot of people end up paying money just to get out of them. So, and the other thing is, you can never know what your profits are when you buy a property to flip, because you don't know what you're going to run into. You've never owned this house before. You don't know how long it's going to take to do the job. And I mean, my gosh, myself, I ended up, one of my flips that I did, and I've done over 200 of them. So I know what I'm talking about. But I had my entire crew got sick with the flu, and they all got better in the wrong order. So in other words, my painter was healthier before my drywaller, and it didn't work out so great. I ended up making $4.44 an hour on that deal. Now, that's not what I want things. I don't want to run my business on that, on, hope investing, hoping that it's going to work out. I don't want to deal with that. Okay. These are the most costly and time consuming, risky strategies that I've run against. Okay. And like I said, many people run out of money before they start. And here's another one that I put with the flips, because it kind of goes with that, the BRRRR strategy, which is where you buy, rehab, refinance, and rent. Basically, when you're doing this, again, you're buying this as low under value as you possibly can, similar to doing a flip, right? Because you need to make that money on the front end so that you can put work into it and then increase its value and refinance it. The problem is you have to steal somebody else's equity to buy it below market value. And so let's look at some of the numbers to look at some reality here, okay? If you buy that $500,000 house, you're putting 100 grand down, right? So you've got 100 grand cash in the deal and you got $400,000 mortgage on this property. Then you're going to renovate. Let's just say you put $50,000 of renovations in and say you've got about $10,000 in holding costs and closing costs. So that's 60 grand right there, right? So you're out of pocket 160. So now let's just say it's worth 100 grand more. So $600,000. You actually did it a good enough job that the banks actually agreed that you've increased the value. Okay, because that's the big one. Whether or not you're actually able to show that it's worth more than what you bought it for. So now in this case, you'd have a new mortgage of $480,000. So that $480,000 needs to pay out the first mortgage that you had before, plus your holding costs and your renovation costs, right? So look at this. Now you've got only $20,000. You've got $20,000 left in the deal, but you still have your 80 or your $100,000 that you put down, right? So you're only saving $20,000. And now you've got a property that you've increased the mortgage on it. So you're probably going to have a negative cash flow on this property. I can't understand how these are in people's best interests. I actually had, and I'm not going to bring it up this time, but I've shared it before, where someone on Facebook actually last week actually posted that he's done 12 of these BRRRRs, but he talked about the fact that they're so risky and so many times you don't make money. In fact, the last one that he did, he actually only was able to pull out of the whole deal 2.8% of the money that he put into it, after he did all the renovations and how he refinanced the property and everything else like this. So now he's got a higher mortgage on it and it's going to be a negative cash flow. So he actually hasn't even profited 2.8% because he's losing money on cash flow. This is not in your best interest. This is not a solid investment strategy. Okay. So yeah, Facebook post, that's what I was talking about before, was the one that I saw on Facebook here. So the next one I wanted to talk about was the blind leading the blind. Okay, this is what I call wholesaling. I find these to be extremely cruel and dishonest. Here's how they get sold. They get sold to new investors as being the easiest way to get into real estate investing without needing money or credit. So this is not what the FFSHing Formula is about when I say you don't need money or credit to do it, okay? What happens is a lot of people end up buying into the idea that this is a great way to get started, right? But here's a reality check for you. If you end up getting into doing wholesaling, if you're not an experienced investor, again, this is usually aimed at new investors, right? So if you get into doing wholesaling, you're going to be looking at 25 to 30 deals before you find a half decent good deal. And you got to do this on a regular basis, by the way, okay? Try to find these many deals where you can put in offers on all those properties and hopefully one person will bite on that. And you have to be really good at writing a contract, because if you don't know how to analyze a property really well and you don't know what a really good contract is, then here's the problem is you're going to end up selling that well, you won't be able to sell it to an experienced investor because they're going to look at it and go, yeah, there's no money in this. And then the only other person you're going to sell it to is someone who's inexperienced. And you might be looking at somebody who's like, oh, great, you've got an offer. I will buy that from you because I'm really intimidated about the idea of going out and negotiating on a contract and putting it under contract and everything else, but I can close on it. The problem is if they close on a contract that is not well written and doesn't have profits in it, they can lose everything they have. They can be financially ruined just from one deal. So your chances of being able, like I said, the chances of selling these contracts are really, really, slim to none, unless you know what you're doing. And I put Keith, that, by the way, that is how he spells his name. People say I spell it all the time wrong, but anyways, Keith and Leah, brother and sister team, and they went into a program. It's Canadian and US as well. And some of you probably know the name. In fact, we were talking about the name of it earlier tonight. They ended up paying $30,000 a piece to be part of this program. And they decided to focus on the wholesaling, and they were never able to get a deal under contract that made sense. And they tried selling them and selling them and selling them. And at the end of the day, they came across me. Someone referred them to me and I showed them how they could turn things around and get that money back. In fact, Keith has been started using the mortgage pay down program that I teach. And he started just melting his mortgage away so fast. And that's saving him tons and tons of interest. That alone has helped him to recover the money he spent on this other program. Okay. So again, that's a ton of work for just 5 to 10 grand, which is typically what you sell a wholesale contract for. Okay, so then we have the unethical, risky rent to owns. And I know a lot of people love these and they're sold as a great idea, but let me just poke some holes at these, okay? First of all, this strategy comes out of the US from 3 main characters, really great people. They've done really well. They've brought the idea of real estate investing to the average person. So, I mean, they're kind of the grandfathers of the industry, Ron LeGrand, Carlton Sheets, and Russ Whitney. So they've done this. And Ron LeGrand was big on bringing rent to owns here. Problem is they don't work so well here in Canada, and they don't hold up in the courts if you ever have to defend it. And let me break this down a little bit for you. So first of all, as far as the tenant buyer, and it's a tenant until they become a buyer. First of all, I don't find them ethical for these people, because what you end up doing is you're selling the option to purchase a property to these people. And at the end of the day, they have 3 to 5 years typically to buy out this contract. But let's just look at how this works. So they buy a property, say it's a $500,000 house, and you add, say, 3 to 5% per year for the next 5 years. That property is going to be, if it's 5%, it's going to be an extra $70,000 on top of that, just for, the possibility of future value prices, so that the investor doesn't lose out on the lift, right? But here's the thing. What if the property is not worth that much in 5 years when they go to qualify for that property, right? Then you end up, this person can't qualify for their property. They're going to lose their option money for that property, and they're going to lose their home. They're going to have to move out, because if the market goes down or stays flat, they're not going to be able to buy that house from you. And then the other side of it is I've actually done field trips to the courthouses with my investors to be able to prove this part out, because a lot of people were really unsure about this. So I thought, well, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. Let's just do a field trip and go down to the courthouse. And we literally saw this very thing that I teach play right out in front of us that day. And it wasn't awesome. It was terrible for the person having to deal with it, but it was great that my clients got to see this. But they do not stand up in court. If you're looking to evict someone that's not paying in a rent to own, many cases you're going to actually have to foreclose on them because of the way they're structured. There is not a clear line between buyer and seller for the tenant. In fact, if you're taking rent credits on these properties, if you're receiving rent credits, oh, let me go back here. Where did I go? I went too far. Rent credits are the thing that caused the problem the most. Not the only thing, but it is the most thing to think about. If you're receiving rent credits towards the down payment of a property, you are essentially doing seller financing for the down payment, which is towards the purchase of the property, which means that person is a buyer, not a tenant. You've crossed the line, and you cannot, the contracts that you have will not hold up. They're too loosey-goosey, and I prove that over and over, and that's only one way that it makes it not stand up in court. There's several other things that cause it to not stand up in court. Okay, I just want you guys to see this, all right? So again, a traditional rent-own strategy, you're using, again, you're buying it under value, you're stealing someone else's equity, you're adding a premium to that property. Many tenant buyers are unable to buy at the end, and they're structured to leave you, the investor, vulnerable if something goes wrong or that tenant doesn't pay. You may need to foreclose on them. Sometimes I get ahead of my slides. Sorry, guys. And here's the big one for me. Many coaches are teaching things that are not legal, okay? So if you're borrowing money to do your deals, if you're being taught to put together, the buzzword nowadays is credibility packages, so that you can do presentations to people that might have money to invest in your deals. If you're not registered with the Securities Commission, you could be in big trouble doing that. But not only that, if you are working with an accredited investor, or you're working with somebody who's got $10,000 or less, you're good to go, okay? You don't need to worry about that. But if you're working with anybody that has $10,001, or if they have a net worth of less than $1 million by even $1, they are not an accredited investor. And if you're not registered with the Securities Commission, then you are selling an illegal trade, because real estate is a security. And that means you're selling an illegal security. And if you're not registered to do so, and if they don't meet the tight, stringent definition of an eligible investor, then you're breaking the law. Okay. And what I mean by that is friends and family and business associates is the one that most people rely on. And it has a very strict definition that most people are not meeting at all. In fact, it's being taught very, very loose. So you end up taking risks that you don't even know you're taking. And in fact, I know of 2 coaches right now, and you guys know the names if I put them out there, but they are being investigated. And there's a forensic audit going through on their books, and their clients are on their books and records. And the reason I know this is because one of the clients is actually had both of these people as a coach, and both of those coaches are being investigated. And the reason I know about it is because she's a client of theirs, and they started investigating all the clients because she started getting investigated, and so did other clients. And she didn't do the strategies. Thankfully, she didn't feel comfortable raising money. Had she been doing that, she would have had charges alleged against her as well. Okay, this is something that is being taught that is risking you guys in a major, major way. And the sad part is you don't even need money to do real estate investing. Okay, wrong is wrong, right is right. Don't cross any lines just because somebody else says I do it all the time. It doesn't mean that they're not going to get caught someday. All right. If you've been struggling with the risks, you're not alone. When you get these critical essential steps wrong, you defeat your goals and you could lose absolutely everything that you've worked so hard for. All right. And again, you become emotionally hooked to the outcomes that you actually have to have happen for you, or you could lose it all, right? You need to have the right strategy, and the right strategy is always going to be the foundation to your success. You need something that's a solid foundation that you can depend on, not just one-off deals, one deal, then the next deal, then the next deal. You need to have something you can depend on, a strategy that flows from one to the next, okay? And so this is what I consider mine to be, is the new intelligent way. The FFSHing formula is really not new. I've been using it for many, many years, several decades, actually. I've been in the business. It'll be 28 years in April. I've been teaching the FFSHing formula since 2001. It's not out there to a lot of people because I only teach it to small groups of people at a time. It's not for everybody. A lot of people just think, oh, well, if there was a way to do that, somebody else would be doing it, right? So not everybody looks into it, but those that do, 100% of those that actually do the work actually get the results. Just so you know, because a lot of people want to know, well, so what are the chances of it working? There you go. So real estate investing, with the way I do it, is never about the real estate itself. So I'm not looking for the best deal. I'm not going to negotiate way below market value on a property. I buy at fair market value. Instead of focusing on the real estate, I actually focus on the people that I service. And then the tool that I use is real estate to serve those people. So my goal is the outcomes, providing outcomes to people that can't help themselves. And when you do that way, when you focus on the outcomes and use the real estate as the tool to do that, money becomes the awesome result. So in other words, you're like the meat in the middle of the sandwich between the buyer and the seller, or the buyer or the seller and the tenant, right? And the meat gets all the fixings. All right, so what I do is I work with sellers who need out of their homes, not sellers that want to sell, but sellers that need to sell. And money is rarely the reason that people are selling. And I can prove that to you. If somebody's listing a house for sale, they're not typically going, I need some money, so I'm going to sell my house. But they want money. They want to get a fair price. They want to get all their equity out, but that's not why they're selling. The reason they're selling is so many other reasons. The outcomes that they need have very rarely got to do with the money itself, but they want the money because it's theirs, rightfully so, right? But that's not the reason that they're selling. And a lot of times people can't even list with a realtor because most people are focused on the money side of things, whereas the seller, that's not their outcome that they need. They need something else to happen, and that's why they're selling it. But they can't put it in an ad because of the fact that that makes them look desperate, and it won't translate properly in an ad. So they listen to the realtor and they sell based on other reasons, and they try to sell the property and try to get the price. And that becomes the focus, which is really very rarely the reason that they're selling in the first place. And when you get that and you can focus on providing the outcomes, you're doing something nobody else is doing for them. And buyers, a lot of buyers would like to own a home, but there's a ton of people out there. In fact, 80% of buyers that can't qualify for a conventional mortgage. And quite frankly, it's getting worse. If any of you have been trying to get a mortgage lately, It is getting harder and harder and harder because so many people have been buying properties, and a lot of people are getting turned down now because the banks can be fussier right now. Okay. But when you can bridge the gap between the two and you can offer something to both of those people, you're offering something that nobody else is doing right now. It's a niche that is so untapped. I can't tell you how untapped it is. It is, there's so much out there that you can't do every deal that comes your way. In the end, the way I structure it is I'm able to provide sellers with the terms that they need at a fair price, fair market price. Okay. And I'm able to provide buyers or tenants a home at a fair price that they can afford. And the cool thing is, I love who I am. I love the reflection of who I am, the reflection of what I see in my life. My belief systems are reflecting the life that I have. Okay. Because I know that this is possible and it's easy to do. Using the other thing that I use is an exclusive marketing process that I've created that actually attracts buyers to you. So you're not out there looking for them. You're not trying to list with a realtor. I very rarely have to work with a realtor at all, unless someone comes to me and wants me to save one of their deals. But I don't seek out realtors ever. But because my marketing will attract the buyers that I want to work with, and I put them through a screening process. So I'm never dealing with what I call a PITA, a pain in the ass. I'm only dealing with people that I want to work and that fit my system, that I truly want to help and can help. And want to help is a big part of it. You don't want to be dealing with people that you don't want to work with, right? I also do the same thing. Well, like I said, I put them through a screening process. I weed out the PITAs, and I do all of this from home. I haven't seen over half the properties that I've bought. Everything that I teach now can be done online. You don't even have to go and look at a property anymore, which is really cool. It leverages you. You could do this business from anywhere you have internet. Okay. And then the same formula goes with the buyers. If I want to attract a buyer, I always buy properties. I use the same marketing system for my buyers, and I'm always buying them properties that are nice houses, and I give the seller the outcomes that they need. I don't buy properties that need any renovations. So I don't need any money. I don't have any mortgages that I need to deal with. This creates cash flow right away. If you're not coming out of pocket and you're not borrowing money and you're not borrowing somebody else's equity or credit either, you don't have to pay anybody back, including yourself, which means that any money that you start making from the beginning, that is profit. That's when cash flow is king. Okay. That's the big difference. And again, did I mention I don't do any renovations? I don't have any hard negotiating because they have to actually apply to be approved to work with me to get the outcomes that they want. It puts the shoe on the other foot. So now you're the one that decides who you're going to work with. And you know what your profits are going to be before you even buy, because I always have my buyer or my tenant before I have my seller. I never have holding costs when I do it that way. And I have no money or credit at risk, and everybody gets the outcomes that they need. It's completely different from what everybody else is doing. And the cool thing is it is designed for Canadians, yet it also works in the US. In fact, it works in Canada, the US, Australia, New Zealand, and the UK, because I have clients in all of those places. And I've personally used it in Canada, US, and the Dominican Republic. I bought a resort down in the Dominican, 2 apartment buildings and 4 houses with swimming pools with ocean views, and no money needed and no credit, no qualifying for mortgages. Okay. If you do 3 deals a year, just 3 using the system that I do, you have the potential of replacing at least 100 grand or more in your income that year. And that's for beginners. It's usually the first year to a year and a half, the first, 12 to 18 months, you can replace typically around 100 to even up to $200,000 in your first year when you don't know what you're doing. Okay. But the cool thing is once you figure out how to do this, it is such a duplicatable system. It's kind of like owning your own franchise because it's systemized. And the system is duplicatable over and over and over. When you do that, you can actually learn how to leverage most of what you do and hire people to do that when you do enough deals. And when you do that, you can end up doing 1 to 3 deals a month. And there's the results right there. You could be making close to $1 to $2 million a year doing this. And that's a true business strategy. Here's a testimonial from one of my students. It says, when my wife and I met Candy, we were on the brink of bankruptcy. We had to use credit cards to join her program. And within weeks, we made back all we spent on her Foundations for Success coaching. And we joined her ongoing membership. And when they say ongoing membership, it's a year-long process. is how it works. I teach the coaching part of it, and then there's the ongoing while you're doing it. And now just a year later, they're millionaires. They own several motels and a flying fishing resorts with their son. Their son was 17. He didn't have credit. He didn't have money. His parents were almost bankrupt. He was able to do this. He bought a flying fishing resort to start. That's where he started. Oh my goodness. He couldn't even put it in his own name because he was too young to own a property or a company in his name. His parents had to do that for him. So now they have an amazing lifestyle and a business that's designed to support what they want, and they barely work at all, okay? This means you're living life on your terms. You get to live how you want to live, you get to live where you want to live, you get to do what you want to do, and you get to earn however much you want to earn. And this is what gives you peace of mind and fulfillment in your life. So living debt-free and no longer being a statistical victim of debt slavery is really what we focus on at the Foundations for Success. And the good news is this works for just about anybody. So I'm just going to share a couple of testimonials, not a lot, because I don't want to drag this out. So Greg, he says his debt is melting away crazy faster, his words. And I have only just started implementing what I've learned. And now I'm working the real estate part, and it is so easy to follow. Keith, I talked about him earlier. He and his sister are the ones that did the wholesaling. He says, I've already paid off thousands off my mortgages in just a couple of months. And I know I'll be mortgage free within the next 4 years, and I will save close to $100,000 in interest payments. And Len says, I had a deal put together just weeks of finishing the program and put $25,000 in my pocket, plus a monthly income of $573, just 2 or 3 more, and I'll quit my job. Soren says, I'm starting over after a divorce, single and no hope of ever being able to financially recover until I went through your course. I not only have hope that I'll get out of debt, but I have a solid plan that gave me enough profits and confidence to quit my job. And my mortgage is already coming down really fast. And before the end of the year, I will have paid off all of my credit card debt. And Bruce says, my wife was just diagnosed with cancer. We don't need to worry about the loss of her income or the cost of alternative treatments. Plus, I can take time off my job to work the strategy from home to take care of her. I'm so grateful that I met you. That was a big one for me because I have had cancer. I created the FFSHing Formula basically to save my butt. And along the way, I've been able to save a lot of other butts, and that means an awful lot to me. What you believe to be true versus what is true is really key to being successful at anything you do, especially when it comes to money and creating wealth. You have to think about who is telling you what to believe and what's in it for them to tell you that. And how have we been taught to use money? Who's telling us how to use money? Because most people are, first of all, banks are only going to sell you what's in their best interest. And if you're learning about finance and stuff from teachers and stuff like this that actually are not worth millions themselves, then maybe you need to be thinking about where you're getting your education from as well, right? Who controls how many properties we buy? How many of you have tried to buy a mortgage or like to get a, sign on a never die death pledge after you already own 3 or 4 mortgages? The banks say no, they won't give you any more. So now what? As a real estate investor, we're only supposed to be so wealthy? No, there's other ways to buy real estate without dealing with the banks at all. Who do they think they are to tell us how successful we're allowed to be, right? And we have to think about, do we need to be following these structures or is there a better way? All right. Most people are operating on an old, outdated belief system that no longer serves them. We've been deceived and it's time to turn things around. Regardless of what we've been told, you do not need to risk your money and your credit to invest in real estate, and you can eliminate debt much faster than what we've been led to believe. With the Foundations for Success FFSHing Formula, will that work for you? That's something that a lot of people ask, and I'll get into answering all those questions afterwards about whether it will work for you. But here's the deal. You can jump in blindly, which is what most people do, or you can learn by hiring an expert. I have done close to 1,000 deals, and I've never lost a dime on anything I've ever done. I've come close, $4.44, right? But I've never lost a dime ever. And I have 3 decades, well, almost 3 decades, 28 years of extensive knowledge and experience doing just about everything in this industry, including going up against the Securities Commission against fraud allegations without a lawyer. I'm the only Canadian to beat them and win. Okay. I'm also willing to take the time to teach you. I still do the business. I love this industry. I keep thinking, you know, it's kind of like I used to always say, buying real estate is like buying shoes. There's never it's never anything, no such thing as buying too many. But the problem is after a while, you just, you know, like I don't do quite as many as I used to because I'm a little bit older and I don't have the energy I had when I was younger. But I still did 7 deals last year, and it's only, you know, March 2nd, and I've already done 4 deals this year. Okay. But the thing is I don't make my money from coaching. I roll the money back into the coaching program itself in order to be able to support you guys and to be able to pay for the online marketing, because I do pay for online marketing, which is very expensive for those of you who've ever tried it. We're talking like $30,000, $40,000 a month just for the advertising. So that's where my money rolls back into for the coaching. I do it because I'm sick and tired of the bullshit that's being taught to you guys out there. And I want you to know another side to it. I want you to know what else is possible. Okay. So ask yourself a couple of questions. How much did you earn last month? How much debt do you have? What is the exact date that you're going to retire, and how much will you have saved by then? And how happy are you with your financial situation? If your answers scare you at all, you need a new belief system and an action plan so that you can achieve the outcomes that you want without the risks associated with all other real estate strategies. There are products and strategies that the banks aren't telling you about. And you can also learn how easily you can replace your income by doing the FFSHing Formula. The Foundations for Success clients on average, and I put $75,000 plus, but I literally ran the numbers back in, it was either late August or September from the previous year. So let's just say the last year and a half, the average was 76,600. That was the average per deal of my clients, not me, just the clients themselves. Okay. Without swinging a hammer, they did all this without swinging a hammer, without dealing with PETA tenants or clients or buyers or sellers, and without having to risk any money or credit, theirs or anybody else's. And by doing this, you can actually start living life on your terms, not somebody else's. All right. What is the belief system that you've been telling yourself about what is possible in real estate investing and being able to pay off debt? What action steps are you now going to be able to take? Some people succeed because they're destined to, but most people succeed because they're determined to. And I truly believe that. So many people get into real estate investing and they give up when they're just about there because they've been taught something that put them at risk and it scares them off. But if you're determined to get there and you're determined to keep looking for the right thing, I can show that to you. Basically, you have to be determined to be the success of your dreams. I am a cancer survivor. I was diagnosed with terminal cancer. I was told I had 6 months to a year 10 years ago. And the one thing that I found is I'm determined. I refuse to let somebody else tell me what my life and my destiny is going to be. Definitely what the end of my life is going to be, for sure. I'm a single mom. I homeschooled my kids for 11 years. And I've taught my kids one of the most powerful things ever. And that is to never give up on your dreams, even when death itself is facing you. If you want success, if you want something different in this industry, it's there. You just have to decide to take action and take the steps to find out what that is that could do that for you. Because you have a choice by the end of this. You've seen a glimpse at what is possible. You can turn away from that if you want to, and you can turn away for your reasons for why you need to get control of your finances and your income. And you can give up on the idea of totally being in control of the income and profits that you make in real estate investing. And you can settle for not having, being able to give your family and your friends and your loved ones the life that they deserve. I used to feel like a failure. I thought I screwed up my family when I first got into this business because I thought I had destroyed us when I buried us under all these rental properties because I did the business wrong. I thought we were going to lose everything, right? But you know what? I stuck it out and I figured out something else that works. So you can literally settle, or you can do something similar to what I did, right? You can step into the vision that you actually want, and you can start making your dreams a reality. Here's how I can help. What I do is I meet with every single person personally. So you will have the opportunity to meet with me have a one-on-one strategy call. I meet on Zoom with everybody. We work together. When I train and teach people, we work together for an entire year. It takes 8 weeks to learn the FFSHing Formula and another 10 months to implement it under my tutelage. So you're not left alone. It's live coaching twice a week for an entire year. There's nobody else out there that's doing the same kind of coaching. And by doing it this way, I'm putting myself out there to say, look, while you're doing this, it's going to work because I'm here to help you. You get to keep coming back to me and coming back to me. If you're struggling, you get to put me on the spot in front of everybody and say, it's not working, help me. And that's what I do. If it didn't work, I wouldn't be coaching for an entire year with you. I would be selling you a course for 8 weeks and going, good luck, see you later, just like most other programs do. Okay, I'm going to show you how to pay off debt, get rid of your mortgage, and create income that you actually want without the common risks. With just a few deals a year or a few deals a month, whatever that is for you, I get behind you in your goals. My goal is at the end of the year, you don't need me. There's no upselling. There's nothing else to buy. You're not going to get anything else from me except for the full, complete strategy of how to do what I just talked about tonight. But here's the thing. Here's the caveat. You have to want this more than I want this for you. I've learned I don't want to push people uphill. But if you do want this, I will get behind you on this. The reason that I do this is I've actually been in your shoes. I know what it's like to lay awake at night, wondering how I'm going to pay the bills and wondering whether or not I've totally screwed up my family. And I know what it's like, and it's no fun to be in that position. Or even if you're not quite there and you just are just a little bit worried about having to, you just don't want to have to borrow money, or you don't want to have to work with joint venture partners. If that's all it is, I can help you with that too. Because you don't need to. If you're sick and tired of living paycheck to paycheck, buried under debt, working too hard to afford your life with not much left over, you need to choose a different plan. Okay? So here's what I've got for you. Your life is literally the reflection of what you believe. If you don't like what you see, change what you believe. If you guys have a pen, write this down, thefoundationsforsuccess.com/apply. You can go there and you can actually book an appointment with me to have a one-on-one conversation with me. And we will go through exactly what you need to know based on your personal situation. What is your situation? Not anybody else's, but what is yours? How can I help you to achieve what you're looking to do? And if the formula, the FFSHing Formula is not for you, I'll tell you. If a better strategy is meant for you, I'll give you that direction. Because if I'm working with somebody for a whole year, I don't want to work with somebody I can't help. So I will let you know that yes, the FFSHing Formula will get you those results, and I'll back it up and we'll work together for a whole year with other people in the same group. So it's not like it's just you guys, other people in the group, like a small group, like what you're seeing on the screen here, so that I'm able to help all of you. But the cool thing is you get to see what deals each one of those people are working on, because we analyze your deals together, we role play together, we run the numbers together. I help you with the contracts. I help you with all of it. Doesn't matter where you're living, whether it's Canada, US, Australia, New Zealand, or the UK. We can help you to learn how to do all of that. Okay? But this is what it's about. And if it's not for you, if the FFSHing Formula is not the best strategy for you, I've done just about everything there is to do in real estate. I can give you a different direction if that's what you need, and I'll do that. And I don't charge anything for those meetings. It's really important for me that you actually know whether or not it'll work for you. And if it does, great, I'd love to help you, and I'd love to coach you to actually see the results that you want to see. If you've been struggling or you're just looking for something different, that is something that I can show you how to do. So what I'm going to do here, it's been an hour and 5 minutes. I did pretty good. I thought it would take way longer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you guys, let me just check to see here. I think I have to actually allow you to unmute. Yeah. Okay, I've allowed you guys. You can unmute yourselves. If you have questions, don't bother putting it in the chat. Just start talking, or put your hand up and then start talking, or whatever. But I love questions. Put me on the hot seat. Ask me a ton of questions. I'm good with that. I just want to make sure that any questions that you have get answered. And for those of you who didn't get to see the screen and you do need to go, it was www.foundations, plural, foundations with an S, foundationsforsuccess.com/apply. Okay, if you want to book a one-on-one with me. All right then, cool. So does anybody have any questions? Oh, is it not unmuting? Maybe I did it the other way. Try it again.
Oh,
yeah,
perfect.
I actually muted you. Sorry.
And what is wholesaling? I don't know that terminology.
Wholesaling is when you're putting a property under contract and then you sell that contract for a fee.
Oh,
for somebody else who doesn't know or doesn't feel comfortable or doesn't have the time to negotiate their own deals, they'll buy a
Oh.
contract to do the deal instead. But they are, I'll have to tell you, as a new person to the industry, it is disaster. It's scary, and you don't want to buy a contract from someone that's brand new. But I have done them myself, but only after I had done several hundred deals. And I actually was working with somebody who was liquidating their portfolio. So I had a bunch of properties, a bunch of deals that I didn't want to close on because I already had a ton. So I thought, okay, you know what? What I'm going to do is I'm going to wholesale these ones. And I'm going to actually not only wholesale them, but I'm going to coach people on what they can do to renovate them and make my entire crew available to them because I own my own construction crew as well. So I had my whole crew available to them because the properties that I was doing didn't need renovating, but those ones did. So I allowed them to use my crew. And so my crew knew everything that I would have done. So they were able to walk them through how I renovate properties and how they can save money and make the most profits out of them. So that was a completely different scenario. Most of the time, you'll never get that kind of support if you buy a contract from somebody. And most wholesalers never provide that kind of support either. But in that case, I did. And I made $500,000. So it was worth it because I negotiated once and I liquidated, I think it was about 50 properties. So somewhere around there, 50 or 100, I can't remember now. But it was a ton. I ended up making about $500,000. And, they were really good deals. People made really good money off of them, but I didn't want to do them. So I don't like doing renovations anymore.
yeah, same.
Yeah.
Kindly.
Yeah, Daniel. And then Linda had a question too. Go ahead.
Oh, so you said like you put no money down, right? So what's the difference with the BRRRR strategy, where people because I that's what I see nowadays on my real estate feed.
Sure.
People they go to their banks and then they refinance. They say they refinance their money out, right?
Yeah.
So that they can use that money to buy another property.
Okay, so just a second.
So yeah, so how does that? Is not that safe too because you're pulling your money out, or?
Okay, so let me just explain it for you first of all. Okay. Some people will make money on a BRRRR, especially if you're in a small town and you could buy a really rundown property cheap, and then you can fix it up. Okay. You need to be finding something that's so low below value that you can not only renovate it, but you can increase its value enough that it's going to be worth so much more money that you can not only, the new mortgage will pay out the original mortgage and all your costs. That's a very, very rare find. Sometimes, most of the time, you can pull out some of your money, but here's the problem, Daniel. As soon as you put it on a new mortgage that's higher ratio, you're not going to be able to rent that property to cover that cash or to cover the all the hard costs, right? Because now you've got a higher mortgage payment on that property. So you may be able to pull some of your money out, but in most cases you can't pull all of your money out. And also you've got to look at the cost of renovating and the cost of refinancing, because there's a cost to refinance. And in most cases, when you go to refinance, when you bought a property, many times the bank will not put a new mortgage on a rehab property until about a year later. You sometimes have to sit on that property for a year before you can pull your money out. Okay. And so those are some of the things that a lot of people are not talking about, is the downside to all those things. So can they work? They can work, but they don't usually work where you get all of your money out. And this isn't just my saying so. This is from interviewing many, many people that have done them, including some of the people that have been in the program as well. And then also I shared with you last week a guy, I wonder if I still have it in my, just a second, let's just see here. Yeah, okay, I think this is it. No, that's not it. Shoot, where is it? Let me just see. Oh.
So while you're looking for it, the other one is this particular person, the deal he had borrowed money from some lenders, right? So when he said he pulled his money out, he still has to pay his lenders too, right?
Well, when you pull the money out, that's usually money that belongs to the lenders, right?
Oh, okay.
So if, for example, if you borrowed somebody else's money, hopefully you've done it legally.
Yeah.
Is one thing. The other thing is if you borrowed somebody else's money to buy the property and to renovate the property, and then you refinance it, if your renovations weren't good enough to increase that value enough to pull out all the down payment and the renovation costs, well, then you still end up owing those people that money. Right? So now you've still got some of their money. What if the property doesn't increase enough? Or what if the property values a year later aren't high enough? What if property values go down in that year? Or, you know, what if your renovations cost you more than you expected? Because whenever you renovate a property, you've never owned that property, so you don't know what you're going to find. So you don't know what your holding costs are going to be. You don't know what your renovation costs are going to be. The entire thing is a risk. It's a massive risk that's not even needed. And you're risking your credit twice to buy the property. You're qualifying for a mortgage, and to refinance it, you're qualifying for a mortgage. And then that second mortgage is a higher ratio mortgage because now you've increased the value of the property. So yeah, you've paid back some of the money that you've got into it. And even if you've paid back all of it, you've got a higher ratio mortgage. So what is that property going to now cost you if it's a negative cash flowing property? Or if you've got vacancies or anything else again, right? Rentals are for future profits. They don't take care of today's needs. So one of the things that we do go through in my program is how I buy property and how I'm able to make immediate profits because I don't have money in it, and how I make money, you know, right away. I start making money immediately. And I only need so much to live on. The rest of the money that I make, that can go to buy a rental property. And I can put more money down and then pay off that mortgage and have a clear title and have 100% cash flow on that property. It didn't cost me anything to pay it down that way. I can pay it off in about 5 to 7 years. And I'm not using any of my own personal money. I'm not leveraging equity out of my home to do it. I'm not risking my credit to do it. I'm able to just, so again, I have money constantly to live on. I have properties that are bringing in cash flow, and I make a surplus every year where I'm able to buy a couple of rental properties, almost 100% clear title. That to me makes way more sense than risking all the other things. And I know a lot of people say, well, why would you want to pay off your mortgage? So that I don't ever have to worry about a vacancy. And so I don't ever have to worry about ever coming out of pocket. And when I'm retired and old and crooked and don't feel like working at all, I don't want to have to worry about a vacancy. I don't want to have to worry about something going wrong. And if I wanted to sell a property, I have money from that if I want to, but I don't want to. I want to live off of those cash flows. And I can be comfortable and live the life that I want to live. And I don't have to worry about if there's still a mortgage on there if I get vacancies. Because I mean, gosh, I had 12 vacancies at once. I had 39 rentals. I had 12 vacancies, 12 mortgages. How many of you can cover 12 mortgages all at once? Plus your own home. At that time, I still had a mortgage on my house. That's when I had to sort of buckle down and figure out how the hell did the banks make money off of us, and can I turn that around? I literally went back to pre-World War II when people actually back like in the 1920s when people didn't actually use mortgages to buy properties. I studied what they used to do back then because you had to have 50% or more to buy a property back then, like to have a down payment. And so it wasn't until after the war when they encouraged people to get into debt when people came home from the war and, you know, to help them buy properties. And, the government and the banks saw a great opportunity to make money off of all these people. And so they ended up finding a way to implement mortgages and amortize interest, which is, oh my gosh, it is the most dangerous interest on anything because it literally locks you into a lifetime of debt. But if you can learn a different way to use your money, in fact, even using the bank's own money at 0% interest, that's what I teach my students how to do. Does anybody have a question? Another question? Oh, Linda, you had a question. Did you still have? Go ahead. Oh, it's not working.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Yeah, just the bi-weekly mortgage versus monthly.
Okay, so the bi-weekly, all you're doing is paying more per year to pay down that mortgage faster. You're paying the same amount of interest when you do it that way. What you really need to be doing is getting rid of the principal first and having a way to pay off the principal portion of it without it having to increase your income. So even like, for example, the reason I use Greg's testimonials because he didn't even do the real estate side of things first. He focused first on paying down his mortgage. And once he started to see that really, and literally his words melting crazy fast, when he saw that happening, then he was ready to start the real estate. So without even increasing his income, just changing the way he was using his own money and how he was using banks' money, or the fact that he even could use it, which he didn't know. Just by doing that, that changed the fact that he was able to pay off his debt without increasing his current income. Then with the real estate, once you realize how you can actually start making money from that without it costing you anything, which means it's a total return on investment of time, really, and you're not risking any of your credit because you're not qualifying for a mortgage. In that scenario, when you have more than you need to live on, you can also use towards paying off your mortgage if you want it to, or buying more property.
So it's better to do a monthly, and then you're just paying whatever extra cost, extra mortgage payment that
Well, monthly means
going
more
to
money
interest.
in your pocket instead of theirs. If you want to, for
Right.
example, even if you just took that one extra payment and made a principal
Mm-hmm.
payment on your mortgage every year instead of it going towards principal and interest, especially in the beginning of the mortgage, because the majority of that payment is interest payments anyways. So why give it to them, right? Instead,
That makes
if
sense.
you attack the principal first, then you will pay less interest overall, which means you'll pay it off faster and it will cost you a fraction of the price.
That makes sense.
And how to do that, that's what I teach. And it'll blow your freaking mind. Sorry. I have no filter, by the way, guys. I get a little Irish at times. Sorry.
I'm
I
good.
I get like this. I get all worked up. When I'm talking about real estate, I just go. It's just my passion, and I love to teach. I homeschooled my kids 11 years. I love sharing, and I love seeing people's eyes go, oh, really? I love that. When you catch on to something, it just makes me feel so good. Anyway,
This is a lot of information, good information.
it's a lot.
Thank
but
you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's a lot, and it's kind of at you fire like this.
Yeah.
But I did record it this time, so there'll be a replay.
Oh, good.
Monica, you have a question. Go ahead, hon.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about the nature of how you teach? You mentioned that there's
Yes.
8 weeks. Do you partition the groups of people based on interest, based on level of knowledge? How does that work? Or do you lump everyone in one group?
So here's what I do. One of the things that I've learned from teaching people, like I've been coaching this since 2001, so 20 years now, right? It'll be 20 years in April. At the beginning of April and at the end of April, it'll be 28 years since I've been doing the business. So what I've learned from this is if everybody's at the same level, there's not enough dynamic to pick up on new ideas. But when people come in at different levels, like the world, right? Like it's not like a classroom of school where everybody's in the same grade level. It's like adult education where everybody's different ages, okay? The reason I do that is because it's not just different ages, it's different experiences. Some people have been investing, some people haven't, some people, there's a lot of different, all kinds of things coming into the one thing. And the reason I do that is because we also do, because I coach you on the deals you're working on, you'll be attracted to different styles of real estate investing, different types of deals that you want to do that you can apply the FFSHing formula to. So you can learn that, oh, I can do multifamily. What does that look like? Because somebody's going to be doing a multifamily deal. Somebody else might be doing a single family. Somebody else might be wanting to buy property to condominiumize or whatever. You're going to learn far more by having a mix in the group than if it was just everybody at the same level. So that's one thing. The other thing is I keep the group smaller, around this size-ish, because then I can help you, right? Because I'm able to help that many people at a time. So what we do, it takes 8 weeks to go through the process. I've broken it down into 8 different sections, bite-sizable sections. Anything more, I have been told by my students, it's too much because it is a lot of information every single week. Okay, and each week covers a different section all in of itself, but they all flow together, and the last one goes back and basically confirms the first week. So it's an 8-week process. How it works is I send the lessons out a week in advance, and so you have a whole week to review the lesson and formulate any questions that you have. Hopefully you get most of the work done. If you do, you do. You don't, you don't. You have a whole year. Okay, so it's not stressful. It's on your time. I come and meet you where you're at, not the other way around. So it's for every Monday night, we meet, and it's at 5:30 Pacific, 6:30 Mountain Standard Time, 8:30 Eastern, okay, 7:30 Central. So, and I do have people right on the East Coast. I do record all the meetings. So if you can't make it, or if you're on the far East Coast, or if you're like Claire in London, she's never on because it's a 7-hour difference for her. Actually, she's just outside of London, near Kirkby, it's called, if anybody knows England. So anyways, it just depends on whether you can make it or not. So we record them so you don't miss anything. And in fact, what Claire's done is she sends in her questions or a deal that she's working on, and then I share that, and then I answer it or analyze it for her so that she can see that later, right? Or anybody else's, in fact. So we do that Monday nights. Wednesday night is live Q&A. So this is where it's really interesting when you have multiple different, experiences here, because this is when it's very organic. Whatever deals you're working on, you want to run past me. If you've got, say, for example, you've done a call with somebody and you've recorded it, like a buyer or a seller, you want me to help analyze that with you, you can actually record that, and we can play the recording, and we can listen to it as a group, and we can see where you went right, where you went wrong, how you can improve it. Everybody learns from that. So that's Wednesday nights. We do contracts, we run numbers so that you know how to profit from your deals, everything that you need to know, whatever that is, mindset, anything, okay? If you're running into brick walls, or if it's a belief system you have, or anything that you think that you want to have help on, especially anything will help everybody else. And that's why I teach it that way, because you're growing, your education explodes when there's more than one mind in it. Okay, so that's twice a week, and it takes 8 weeks to get through all the lessons. And then after that, for the remainder of the year, the next 10 months, what I do is that basically, depending on holidays, Monday nights and stuff like this, if there's a holiday, then we just add to it, right? So it typically goes a little bit past a year because of Monday holidays, but how it works typically is every 8 weeks-ish, 8 to 10 weeks-ish, we repeat the lessons on Monday nights. So the first time you hear something that's new, sometimes you intellectually get it, but then when you go to do it, you're like, oh, now I see what I don't remember or don't get, or that, oh, shoot, I missed something. So you get to come back and revisit some of the different lessons as often as you want, right? So basically 8 weeks, that's 2 months. So it repeats 6 times while you're in the program. So the reason I do that is because that repetition is really what's going to lock that in for you, what you do here, what you do there. But the other thing is I don't prepare lessons in the sense that I have a script of what we're going to do. We'll teach a lesson, and the first thing I do with the class is ask, what questions did you have? So it's not my agenda, it's always the class's agenda. What do they want to talk about from that lesson? So every single time we do that lesson, even though the lesson is the same, the live meeting is always going to be different. You will learn something new every single time, which is really a cool concept, the way that works. It works really well. And then Wednesday nights, again, are always Q&A for the whole year, so it doesn't matter. And so you've got some students that might be coming back and repeating. They've seen week 1, or they've seen the first 8 weeks, so they're coming back just to sort of revisit something, or they've got a deal that they want to bring to the table and have me analyze it. So you're going to learn from other people's deals as well. And that's why having some people that know what, that have been through it at least one session around, and they're out there doing deals, it helps the brand new ones. Even though the first couple of weeks, it's like you're in front of a fire hose. It's like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what they're talking about. But by immersing yourself in listening to all the things that people are doing, even when you don't know it all yet, it's like acquiring a language instead of learning a language. If you submerge yourself in the language, you will pick it up whether you recognize that or not. So that when you start to do it yourself, you'll realize that you knew more than you actually thought you picked up on. Okay. And I always tell everybody, it's like, this is what it's usually like. At the first little while you're in there, everything is like clear, crystal clear like milk. After a while, it's crystal clear like apple juice, and then it'll be crystal clear like water, because most of this is new concepts for people. Some of it you might heard of, some ideas like it, but the way I put it together is going to be very different. So now after you've learned the whole process within those first 2 months, the 8 weeks, you keep coming for the next 10 months, I'm available to you. Typically what happens is that after about 6 months or so, you don't need to come as often, and most people don't because they're busy doing it. And then every now and then they'll step in, or they'll send me a message and say, hey, have I got this right? Can you run through this real quick? Because you do have access to me through my through texting and email as well. I want to be available to you while you're doing this.
Thanks.
Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Cool.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, so I record the lessons and the next day you get the next lesson. Like I record every one. So Wednesday, the next day you get the recording. And on Mondays, the next day you get the recording plus the next week's lessons. So you have that whole week again to review them. And what's happening right now is my next one starts March 15th. And so here's an example. Week 7 is a big week, right? Really big week. And last time, not yesterday, Monday night, but the Monday night before, everybody was just sitting there like, oh my gosh, there's this, like, this is really cool. It makes sense. It's all flowing, but there's so much and I want to make sure I have it right. So because I was actually going to take a week off, and when people were saying, can we just sort of review the flow one more time? I said, why don't we do this? I won't take the week off. We'll repeat week 7, make sure you've got it down pat, and then we'll do week 8. And that's what we ended up doing. So again, it's about what you guys need, not what about what. It's not my agenda, it's yours. What do you need? And that's what I give you.
Yeah.
So I
And
don't
then-
know if some of you were on my Facebook group and Heath thought that actually it was going to be Monday night was going to be the last, and he's having this like, woo, tailgate party. It's the last day. And so now he gets to do it twice. There you go. Any more questions for me?
So what's the course fee for
I don't discuss
whole
the
year.
course fee unless you're joining the course. Once we sit down and talk together, if this is for you, I will let you know and I'll invite you
Okay.
to join. I always sit down with everybody first because the decision can't be just based on the numbers, which by the way, you will find it's probably one of the cheapest programs that you've got that is going out there. But the other thing is it's for me, I don't want to overprice it. There is skin in the game. I want you to do it, but it's not expensive, especially considering what you're getting. And I do offer a payment plan if that's what you need. But I always want to make sure that I can offer you what you need. And if I can't, then I'll tell you that. Okay. That's why I don't do that. I don't want it to be based on the money. I want it to be based on, do you want those results? And if you do want those results, how can you do the course? Okay. But the other thing I will tell you is that I can guarantee that you will learn how to pay your debt off faster than you ever saw imaginable. And I can show you that you will make in 1 year, just in 1 or 2 deals, you have the ability to make at least 10 times the value of the program. Okay. I
Thank you.
cannot prove that you're going to do the work though. I can't want it more for you than you want it for yourself. But if you want this I will get behind you and help you. Okay. Rosalind?
Yes. You say that you go and you look for your buyers first.
In most cases, yes.
Okay, so after you talk with a buyer and you have them qualified, do you then find out the kind of property they want and go look for that type of property for them?
Typically, that's what I'm going to do. And if that's what they're looking for, yes. I'm always looking to have the end in place before the beginning, because then I never have a holding cost. That's kind of a synopsis of what it looks like, yes.
Excellent, okay.
Mhm.
And how do you find your buyers?
Well, I'm not going to tell you that.
Oh, okay, fine. That,
I will
very
teach it to you, but I'm not going to tell it to you.
excellent.
And it is through the marketing process that I do, but I also, not only do I teach you how to write copy that will actually attract the people that you want to work with, because everybody's going to be different, right? Like, for example, Daniel likes to work with young families because he can relate to them. He has a young family. I like to work with a different type of client. Everybody will have a different type of client that they want to work with. So I'm going to teach you how to write ads that actually will attract that person. That as they're scrolling through their feed, they're going to go, wait, what? Back up again and look at that, right? That's the reaction you want. So I'm going to teach you how to do that. And I'm going to teach you first, before you put it on paid, I'm going to show you how all kinds of ways to do it for free, so that you're not testing something that's costing you money till you've perfected it. And then you might just stay with the free advertising anyways. But the point is that the marketing will attract the people you want to work with. You don't have to go out there and try and find them. And you don't need to hire a realtor to advertise a property that's really not going to portray what you're really looking for in their ad.
Oh, this is wonderful. I used to be in inside sales. That's what I did for a living for 27 years.
Oh my goodness.
Wrote ad copy for
Well, then
paper
you'll love
call to
this
buy and
part.
sell.
You'll take off with that part probably really fast.
Oh, yeah, I'm excited.
Good, good, good. Awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome, hon. So any more questions? Anybody got another one for me? No, have I covered them all? I'm seeing Kelly and David talking back and forth, talking back and forth. Do you guys have a question? Go for it. Come on. Put me on the spot.
Oh, there we go.
Got it.
So I'm just feeding my baby here, so I'm just sort of off to the
Oh, that's
side.
okay.
Okay.
No
He
problem.
just keeps talking to me, and I'm saying, ask. You go ahead and ask.
So
Ask me.
kind of the method you're doing, I kind of picked up on a little bit is it sound like a reverse wholesaling.
No, I don't do wholesaling ever.
No, but like
Buy the
just how,
properties.
just
I
how
don't-
like how it sounded like you said you find the buyer first and then you find the seller, right?
Well, I'm actually buying the property myself. Like,
Okay.
owning the property, so it's not wholesaling at all. It's not close. I mean, those words are close, but the process is not the same at all.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm still confused, but that's okay. I'm just,
Well,
I think it's because
most
our
people buy-
situation is different. This is
So
what
the
we
thing
would
is
talk
that
about.
most people buy a property first, and then they look to sell it or rent it.
Yes.
I think
Okay.
that's totally ass backwards.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
That's very interesting to me. Okay. I'm excited. Yeah.
Cool.
For us, so like David works in the trades. So we have been interested in flipping and stuff like that, and we understand why it's risky, and that's also why it's interesting. But I think what we're curious is, could we apply that, even though we do have some knowledge in that as well? Like, would that work for people?
Yeah, I mean,
like
it gives you more options if you want to do some work. You can expand to a little bit more properties if you want to. The reason I like properties that don't need renovations is because most real estate investors don't know how to profit from those, right? So it
Yeah.
eliminates so much of that competition. But the other part of it is you can use the strategy to acquire and or sell properties that you have renovated.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
you can do that as well. I've used it I mean, in fact, like I said, when I first started the business, I had no money. I had no ability to qualify anyways. And I didn't know that that's what most people did, because my very first house that I bought, my husband and I, the very first house we ever bought, we bought without needing to qualify for the mortgage. So to me, it was just like, and I never had anyone in my family that ever owned a home. So this was like, that just made sense to me.
Yeah, we're in a similar boat right now,
Cool.
but we'll talk all about that. So,
Awesome.
like, I'm coming out of a divorce and everything, and then, but not us, obviously, but with, so we need to find a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. No problem. I can show you that for sure. Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you, and hi everybody.
You're welcome. Good night. Thanks, Monica. Thanks for being here. All right. Does anybody have any more questions before we go, or have I covered everybody's questions?
Hi, Candy. This is Anand. Like, we had a discussion earlier. I have a question.
Sure.
I spoke to you early before, still like this question like triggered me now. My case personally. So in case if I want to buy a property.
Oh, I know who it is. Okay. Anand, right?
Yeah, Anand,
Anand, yeah,
from
because I'm seeing it says
Ajax.
Alan there. So I was thinking,
Oh, sorry.
Alan,
That's
not-
I'm using my son's system. So my
Okay.
son's name.
I know
Sorry
who I'm
about that.
talking to then. Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm not using the video because I'm just putting the kids to sleep. It's at 9:30
Oh, that's
my
okay.
local
I
time.
know what you look
Okay.
like.
All right. So
Oh, we just lost your audio.
my case specifically, had the houses on. Would you able to hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Hello. Okay.
Yeah.
So Candy, there's a very specific question. If I want to buy a property for my own use, I want to retain a house, not for flipping or selling or anything, not doing anything, will that able to help me to work out? I'm just only planning to buy a house for my own self, because my existing case, I have a problem with the existing property. I'm planning to buy one for my own use. So the program can help me to buy a property, no down, no credit. Can anything help me on that way by any chance?
Yeah, I actually I'm going to be moving myself into a new property. If you know BC at all, out in the Okanagan area, the Blind Bay area, I'm buying a house there with a lake view and everything else like this. And I'm not qualifying for a mortgage, and it's going to cost me $1.
Okay, so you can
So
give me
you do have
confidence
to
that like
put
I
some
can
money down
definitely.
sometimes. I'm putting $1 down.
Okay, so you need a down payment for that. Like if you're going to
I don't have to
qualifying
have
for.
down payment or anything for that property. Nothing. $1. That's it.
Okay,
Just to make it
okay,
legal binding
because you know.
contract.
Yeah, my existing house, you know what the case is, we discussed some time back. So
Yeah.
I'm planning to like, hold or sell, like there's a bit of a confusion happening. So in case we want to move for a new house, like, and I'm looking out what would the options for me to buy through this particular program, like, even zero down or like, no qualifying credit. So my credit is still okay, but not bad. I'm just wondering about all those aspects, like,
Yeah.
that's what I want to check with you.
Yeah.
Thanks,
No,
Candy. Thanks, Candy. You've been
you're welcome.
always informative, always great talking to you. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. All right. Glad you're here.
I in my question. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, cool. All
So
right.
none of this 20% down anymore?
Who's talking now? Oh, Linda. Okay. Yeah, go like this. No, you don't have to put 20% down. Never. Like I never put any, well, I shouldn't say never. I'm putting $1 down. Like, so every now and then there's like a little bit, but that's because I'm actually going to be living in this property. But when I have an end user, I use no money ever.
Wow,
Yeah. I know Keith
that
is,
sounds good.
he's been going,
Wow.
you want to talk, Keith? Go ahead. He's like, no, he looks like he's bursting. Yeah. He's been in it now. Well, we're almost done the 8 weeks, and he was for a couple of months, right? Like I think 2 go rounds. You kept messaging me. He didn't join, but he's messaging. Is it really like this? Is it really like that? And he keeps reading my PDF. Is it real? Are you sure? Like, really? And what about this? What about that? So and on, he was doing the same thing. And then finally he joined, and he's this, right? Yeah, it blew his mind. He's been happy. You should see him in the Facebook group. All the videos he's been putting up, it's been a hoot. And he's been telling everybody about, like it's in the Facebook group, like giving everybody the PDFs and everything. Oh my gosh, if I had 100 of you, that'd be awesome. Anyway. Okay, so I'll ask one more time if anybody has any questions. And if you do, great, I'll keep sticking around. But if you don't, we'll go. Linda, did you have another one?
No, I just wanted to say thank you. It's
Oh, you're
very, very informative.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So again, if you want to meet with me, it's foundationsforsuccess.com/apply. And that's my calendar. You can book whatever works for you. If you can't find something there, because I do book off an hour for you, right? Because I want to spend time. I don't want to rush the process. So it is for an hour. And so if you can't find something, if it gets all booked up, then just message me on Facebook if you want to do that. And is anybody not in the Facebook group? No? Okay, so if you're in the Facebook group, you can literally message me there, but it's Candy with an I, Graf, Graf. And you can message me and just say, look, I couldn't get an appointment. Most likely you should be able to though, but my calendar only goes out, I think 7 or 10 days. So if it gets booked up, and I don't work weekends typically, so if it's booked up and you can't get in, just message me. We'll figure out something.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Good to see everybody. Awesome. All right then. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up. You're welcome. You're welcome, everybody. Welcome, May. All right.
Thank you so much.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you, Candy. Thank you. Bye. Thank you.
Thank
Oh, you're
you.
moving on.
Bye.
Bye, Monica.
Bye.
Francis, Rosalind. Thanks, Kelly and Dave. Bye. Daniel, thanks for being here. Kathy, thanks for coming. And Tom. Cool. All right, everybody. We'll see you later.